Hey everyone, it's Mike over at landscapebusinesscourse.com, and I got some emails from the listeners of the podcast and the YouTube channel as far as what they want to learn about. And one of the big things is how to differentiate ourselves from our competition. And so when I look at that, I think of it as three different areas: before the sale, during the sale, and after the sale, and how you can differentiate your business from all your competition at those three junctions of a customer's experience with your company. So I'm going to go over the first one with you right now as far as how do you differentiate yourself before the sale. A lot of times this means like getting new leads, getting people to pick up the phone and call you and ask you for an estimate, ask you to come do work for them. So if you do have a question though, by all means in the comments below, ask me that question and I'll see if I can make a video about that. So please don't hesitate to leave me a comment as far as what you would like to know about landscaping, lawn care, and running your business. So I'm going to talk about three different areas that you can improve on to differentiate yourself before the sale. So getting new leads and getting people into your marketing funnel and to pick up the phone and contact you. So the three different areas from a high level view are your website, your uniforms in your truck, so your trucks and your uniforms, your branding, and then the third one is your team members and their level of professionalism out in the community, and we'll talk more about that. So number one is your website. So a few things how you can differentiate yourself from your competition is your website should be fast. A lot of times people overlook the speed of their website a lot. The reason for that is because they want it to look nice. They want to have lots of video and pictures and things like that. And as I obviously recommend that you do use more video content, more pictures than a bunch of text. Make it interesting, make it look nice, make a good design. But I go a lot more over I lean a little bit more towards the function of a website over just the form. So the design is important, yes, you want it to look nice, you want it to look professional, yes, you want it to have lots of color and be vibrant and stand out. On the other hand, Google is not necessarily scanning your design. They're looking for traffic, they're looking for SEO, they're looking for links, they're looking for a big one that people overlook is speed. So I highly recommend you make sure your website is fast and that there's not a bunch of things clogging it up. One way you can test that is just go to Google and put in test my site Google, and there's a website you can paste your URL for your website in there and it'll test your website. It takes like maybe 2 minutes it runs a scan on your website and it'll tell you the things that are slowing it down, how long it takes for an average page to load, and it'll give you step-by-step things of what you should do. Things like you can optimize your pictures for the web so they're not big massive files that take a long time and slow down the web page. There's things like certain types of CS and code that you can change. There's JavaScript, certain things that will slow down the page and make it a lot more cumbersome to load for Google. And the thing about it, not only is it good for your customer experience and differentiating yourself from the customer, the speed part, but Google looks very favorably at speed. So when it comes to your website, making sure that it's fast to load is important. Mobile, making sure it's mobile friendly. So obviously it's easy to make a website a lot of times for desktop, but more and more web traffic is coming from mobile. So make sure it looks good on a phone and it's not just a big, because if you take a desktop computer, the size in which that screen is, and then you try to shrink that down to an iPhone or an Android device, smartphone, and when they see it, they have to like zoom in and pinch in order to see closer to your web page. If it's not mobile friendly and optimized, where it's a different design and it's not optimized for that smaller screen, a lot of times people just will click off of it, or it'll take a long time to load on that mobile device because it's trying to get so much data into that small screen. So make sure you're mobile friendly. As we progress, more and more things are going to go towards mobile, and you'll want to make sure that you are able to reach those customers and the site is functional, looks good, and is fast for mobile. So another thing you want to do on your website is make sure you have a contact form and clear calls to action. So a contact form should be clear and concise. I wouldn't suggest having 20,000 things they have to fill in to submit that contact form. You don't need to know a billion things about it. You don't need to know about like types of services and days they prefer and size of lawn and what their budget is or what type of services they want to have. Like, do they want longer? Like, we do is we have a name, email, and a comment section, and in the comment section they need to put their address. The comments allow them to say if there's certain things they want. For instance, if it's just mowing or is it landscaping, but they can make it as long or short as they want without having to, and they can submit it without having to submit a whole bunch of other contact information, a whole bunch of address stuff and zip code and state, and it goes on and on. And so people, what you want to do is make it easy for people to submit that contact form and make it, if they're in a rush, that they can quickly submit it. So name is, you need a name, email, possibly a phone number. We don't require it. You can make it a separate tab, separate field on your contact form, but not require it, so they can still submit without putting that phone number in. Because as long as you have their email, since they're submitting it via online, they're probably going to be the type of person that wants that interaction to be via email anyways. So I would suggest minimizing as many fields as you can on that contact form, but having that contact form on the front page above the fold. So when someone goes there on desktop or mobile, they're going to see it above without having to scroll down. That contact form can be there, and if it's small enough, it looks just fine as far as design is concerned. Again, you can always check out our website for some ideas on what I'm talking about, AugustaLawnCareServices.com. On that contact form, you want to be able to make it easy to get estimates, right? Another way you can do is have web chat. So we have it, and there's plenty of plugins where on the bottom right of your screen, on the top, wherever, you can actually have your office log in, and it'll show when you're online, and people can do live chat with your people when they're online. And so that's pretty cool. Just making it easier, more interaction. You just want many options for the customer at your website to get in contact with you, whether it be phone, texting, social media, web chat, contact form. It just make it as easy as possible, whichever medium is best for them, allow them to use it. So another thing on your website to differentiate yourself from the competition is have reviews and have videos. So I said, be more picture and video centric, but you want the videos and the reviews to really complement what you're all about. So instead of having a long list of services like every other landscaping company, try to have videos about each one where someone can click through those and see more information and make it a little more visual. So that's your website. That's the number one way that you can differentiate yourself before the sale, because the modern day business card is your website, and even if people hear about you they're referred to you from a family or a friend, they are still going to go and vet you and search your website and see if there's reviews and try to get some sort of validation before they pick up the phone or contact you for an estimate. So you want to make sure it's professional and make sure it includes all of those elements. Number two thing that you can do to differentiate yourself from the competition and stand out before the sale and get more leads is your trucks and your uniforms and how that works in your branding. So if you listen to the podcast, you hear me talk a lot about sales versus branding. When it comes to your uniforms for your guys, you want them to be clean, obviously, and you want them to stand out, and you want them to be uniform. You don't want some of your guys to have some types of sweaters, and some have big jackets, and some have different colored jeans and different colored Carhartts, and it's all kind of all scattered. You want it to be very uniform, where when people see your guys, they know instantly with just seeing the color combination, they can already tell it's you. And it's it's your team out there working. So number one should be clean and professional and like uniform, but it should also stand out somewhat. So I wouldn't recommend just going with a generic gray shirt with a little tiny logo and jeans. It just blends in too much. I'd look for a color that's going to complement something like us. So we've got, in our market, no one else has yellow shirts like this, so that's why we went with it. On the front, it has the Augusta, it has their name, and then on the back, we have our logo. Our logo and our tagline, your personal greenskeeper. But just from seeing this yellow shirt and our brown Carhartt pants from afar, people know it's us. So we stand out. So I look for some way for you to stand out, even if it's a hat. I've seen companies that have cowboy hats, and that's part of their theme, their branding. And so people know when they see someone with a cowboy hat, it's from that business. So your uniform should be clean, professional in uniform, but also stand out from your competition. So another way, your trucks, your branding from a graphic standpoint, you can have your, I really look at trucks and your trailers and your team members as mobile billboards. So if your guys are walking out on jobs and they're out in the neighborhoods and people are driving by, they are a billboard. If your truck is parked out there and your trailer is parked out there, they're billboards. Look at them as advertising and ways to differentiate yourself from your competition. So the graphics on your truck, your trailer, if you have an enclosed trailer like I suggest for mowing, you can have a massive billboard. You can put a lot of information on there and make it and really differentiate yourself. And every time someone drives by a job, it's no question who is taking care of that landscaping. And if you're doing great work, there's no shame in showing to everyone around that you are the person responsible for creating that landscape, for maintaining that landscape. So if you're proud of your work and you have great quality, you should have no problem putting your company name in big, bold letters all over your truck, your trailer, and really making it stand out. We have our logos from all 4 angles of the truck and trailer. So from the back of the trailer on our enclosed trailers, they see our big our logo. On the sides of the enclosed trailer, where it's 14 feet wide, 7 feet tall, that's the really big one. On the sides of the truck, we have our phone number, email address, and our logo. And then we also just recently added, we're in the front of the truck and the back window of the cab of the truck, we have our logo as well. So we're really trying to get all angles. If you're going to pay for a truck to go down the street, you might as well spend a few dollars to put a massive advertising on that truck and trailer. And you'll be amazed when you do that how often people will say, oh, I see your trucks all over the place. And you might have less trucks than your competition. This has happened to us. We have less trucks than our competition, but people will see us so much and recognize our trucks so fast because they see the branding so evident on the trucks, yet they'll miss our competition because they have a big white truck with a little logo on just the sides. And so they don't see them from the front, the back, the trailers aren't big enough. So just make sure you have graphics on your truck and it stands out. Last thing, the third thing that you can do to stand out from the competition, stand out in your marketplace before the sale is your team members. A lot of times people would think about this as more as something during the sale or while you're on the job, but I really look at it as a way to get people into your marketing funnel and create leads by having a team that is trained correctly. So there's 3 different areas of training that I think you need to train your team on. And so your employees or your staff. The 3 different areas. The 3 different areas are train them in what they're actually doing. If they're landscapers and out in the field, make sure they're trained in tree trimming and landscape design, things like that. If they're in the office, make sure they're trained on how to use the systems and the phone and the website. And I can make a whole other video on that, and we will in the future, about how to train your office manager and then your landscaping crews. But so that's number 1. Train them on what they actually physically got to do in their job. Number 2 is train them to sell. Number 3 is train them to communicate with the client. So number 1, train them what to do. Like I said, I'm going to make more videos on this in the future, but make sure they're competent in what they're doing. You can't expect your team members, whether it be in the office or out in the field, to be confident with the customer or even with each other or potential clients that are walking by, their neighbors and things like that. You can't expect them to be confident if you haven't trained them on what they're doing. So make sure that you do train them on exactly what they're doing. And then number 2 is train them to sell, train them themselves. So even our guys that are mowing out in the field, they're trained to sell as far as if someone's interested in, they're the front line of our force, of our business. They're the front line, the people that are out in the community and have the most contact. So when people want to do business with us, a lot of times they'll come right up to the guys and just ask for an estimate, and the guys obviously are deferring that to the office. However, you want to train them to sell. You want to make sure they give a business card, collect customer information, and send that to the office. So for us, if one of our crew members is mowing a lawn and someone comes by, is walking down the street and asks them for an estimate, obviously they're not an estimator, they can't go do that right away, but what they can do is, they will refer it to the office, but then they'll also get their contact information and send that to the office so the office can actively, instantly get back with that person, that new lead, and then they're also going to give them a business card. So train your people how to sell, even if they're out in the field. Make sure everyone in your organization knows how to sell and what the system is for getting someone from not being a client to a potential client and closing the sale. What's the process look like? What do they need to do, whether in the office, out in the field, if they are an estimator, if they're a crew manager? How does it all play into getting more sales? And be very focused about that, training your people. And number 3 is training your people to communicate. You got to train people how to communicate. A lot of times, most businesses and most enterprises don't train their people on how to communicate with customers, communicate with each other, and communicate effectively as a team internally and then externally to the market outside. So if you can do that, if you can train your people how to communicate, be professional, and do all of that, you really differentiate yourself from everyone else. Because like I said, if someone comes up to one of our mowing crew, they're going to instantly realize that we've trained them on communication and how to sell and be professional. Whereas if they do that with other, your competition, they're probably not going to find that. So those are the 3 different ways: your website, your logos on your uniforms and your trucks, and then number 3 is your team members. Invest in those 3 things, perfect those 3 things, and I promise you, if you do those tips, that you are going to differentiate yourself from 90% of the landscaping companies out there. So be great. Make sure that you implement all of those things, those 3 tips, and I promise you good success on the other side. Thanks so much. Again, this is Mike Andes, landscapebusinesscourse.com.